Hey folks, Cornell with YouTube Fishing Vids. Long time no see. It's been a while. I know I've been gone. It's been a tough month of November for me. I had a couple times out where things were rough, didn't get a single fish, got skunked, and just a little bit before Thanksgiving, I threw my back out something horrible. So I've been struggling. It's still hurting, but I have a huge incentive to get out, and it's my favorite time and reason to get out. It's a mystery tackle box, pro box time. So I got a full box that I've been anxious for the past few weeks to get out here and use, and I'm up here in 46-degree water at my favorite little itty bitty mountain reservoir up here in the mountains of Maryland. So there's some great stuff in this box that's going to work out prayerfully pretty good today, considering we've had 2 days of warm up, 2 60+ degree days, and a day of today with partly cloudy skies, and temps are getting up to about 55, 58 degrees. So it's a killer day to get out fishing. So hopefully it'll be a productive one. So here's the first one coming out of the box, a Berkeley Digger, a bluegill patterned 8.5 diving crankbait. Just an absolutely perfect pattern for this little reservoir. They're just eating bluegill, crappie, crayfish. There's no shad or any kind of bait fish like that in this lake. So here's my killer bluegill patterned Berkeley Digger. So I'm excited about that one. Next one out of the box, we've got a heavy metal tungsten football jig, another killer bait to imitate the crawfish out of here, and a PB&J. Check it out, 3/8 ounce, really itty bitty little football style jig, perfect for the rocks, perfect for the crawfish imitation situation. So that's going to be a killer one, absolutely killer. Next one, Smart Baits Mighty Minnow. It's a soft plastic jerk bait and a really unique kind of a dark backed red bellied pattern. So that's something interesting. You know, this is actually going to be paired up with what else is in this mystery tackle box for this month, which is the Lucky John Donkey Rig Terminal tackle. So I've got 2 extra wide gap hooks and I've got 2 little swivels in there to make it basically a donkey rig. With 46-degree water, that might be a tough deal, but we're going to see what might happen with that. If I just give it a couple slow twitches and let it sink and kind of work it like we would work a jerkbait in the colder water, that might be an interesting option. So we'll play. All right, the next one coming out of the box, we've got Z-Man Power Finesse shroom heads. Check that out. Bright chartreuse. I've got ultra clear water, but I've got some TRDs, the big TRDs, which go perfectly with this shroom head. So if I throw that out there and get a little attention with that shroom head, if I need to go finesse, I've got the terminal tackle to do it. So there's the Z-Man Power Finesse shroom heads. All right, so what else do we have in here? Charlie's Worm Incredible Craw. So there's the Incredible Craw, just a great little crawfish pattern, soft plastics. It's going to work perfect for a trailer, for either the little 3/8 ounce football jig that I just got in there, the tungsten finesse football jig, or the Cyclone. There's a Cyclone. Look at all this stuff in this box, guys. Green Pumpkin Cyclone Series jig, a jig in the wintertime, late fall, all year long. You know what's going to happen with that. So I can put that Charlie's Worm on the back of that jig and play. And then last but not least, another killer crankbait. Check out the Bagley Balsa B2, a balsa crawfish patterned square bill crankbait. I got great rocks over here, hopefully warming up with a little bit of the sun, and hopefully have been warming up with the past couple days of sun. So that's just one killer box, guys. And again, thanks for your patience and hanging in there with me. It's been a while since I've been out. I'm ultra excited, so let's get this game on and see if we can find some fish. Okay folks, there's no question it is time to get cranking. That's the first bait I'm going to throw. Isn't that beautiful? Bluegill pattern, the Berkeley Digger. So I'm going to throw it up here against these rocks, all up against this dam, just on the edge of the water and down deep. There's rocks everywhere. I'm in 20 feet of water right now. So I've got all kinds of fish surrounding me. I can see them on the depth finder. We just got to see if they're going to bite. So here we go. All right, I'm throwing the Berkeley on my new Lew's Custom Speed Stick. It's a medium, heavy, moderate, fast crankbait rod. It's 6'9", and I got 12-pound test fluorocarbon on one of my LFS speed spools. Just a medium speed reel, so I can speed it up or speed it down. So that's all it takes to get these crankbaits moving. So I've got her moving. Trying to bump the rocks. I'm getting right up on the shore and I'm letting it bang the rock. It's called the Digger for a reason. It's made to dig, it's made to bounce, and made to bang into rocks and all kinds of cover. So if you get that reaction bite out of it, that's my goal here. Starting off with moving baits is a no-brainer, just to kind of see the activity level of the fish. So if I don't get much going on with these crankbaits, I'm going to be moving right into some soft plastics and some jigs. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to fish for probably about an hour, maybe hour and a half with the moving baits, and then move into some soft plastics / jigs and see if we have to get them off the bottom. Okay, working this dam area with the Bagley has not produced yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that balsa B2, that square bill, on the far side of the lake over here. There's a lot of fallen timber. There's a lot of wood in the lake from the shoreline. So I'm going to basically, what I always do when I'm traveling a little around the lake and I got a bait like this, you know, diving down 8 or so feet, there's a lot of suspended fish out here. This bait is going out behind my boat. I'm going to troll this thing. So I'm going to get that out behind the boat. I'm going to cover all kinds of water. It's plenty deep, but there's always some suspended fish. So as I make my way to this other side to work that square bill against some hard cover, I'm going to go ahead and troll this and see if something decides to pick up this little crankbait on the way. Happens all the time. This is a pretty darn deep little lake. I just went over 50 feet of water in the middle over there. So it's a pretty deep lake. It holds some really, really nice fish. It's not a big lake, like I said, but it's heavily pressured. But this time of year, there's hardly anybody out here. So it's a great, great time of year to fish and catch that one big one potentially. All right, that didn't take very long. All right, so I'm on the other side of the lake. I've got all kinds of fallen timber, shoreline cover, rocks. This side of the lake's got tons and tons of stuff. Last year they had a major drawdown, so I actually saw everything that's going on in this shoreline. So there's no doubt that Bagley B2, that balsa wood square bill crankbait in a crawl pattern should get some attention. Let's just see what happens. So far, nothing on this little guy and the bluegill pattern Berkeley, but let's see what we can do with the square bill. All right, so I got the Bagley tied on to the same deal, 12-pound test, medium spiel, old school quantum smoke reel, and I've got that on a 7-foot medium heavy, moderate fast crankbait rod, a St. Croix. So that's my setup for this Bagley square bill. I'm gonna get up a little more shallow. I'm gonna almost hit the bank, hit the rocks, hit the wood, and see what's hopefully hitting the Bagley. This light breeze is going to be perfect to just drift me down the shoreline. So I'm going to get real close to the bank. It's not a very deep diving square bill, probably 4 to 5 feet from what I could tell. And that's okay though. There are fish up shallow. I'm very convinced that even in cold water like this, you're going to find some fish. It's just a matter of whether or not they're willing to bite a moving bait. So let's stay at it with these crankbaits until it's time to go down to the bottom. And to at least stay in the strike zone, I'm literally right now, if you look at where I'm at, I'm 15, 20 feet from the shore, if that, and I'm hitting the shoreline. I'm definitely 45 from the bank. My angle is definitely going to be pretty sharp, and I definitely want to keep my bait in the strike zone as long as possible. There's probably some fish out a little deeper, but this is the kind of bait that calls for a reaction bite. So if I can maintain contact the whole time, to whether it be the rocks or the wood, that's going to be my ideal situation. And it's a pretty steep bank, so even though I'm literally right next to the shoreline right here, I'm still sitting in 6 to 8 feet of water. So I'm not casting ultra shallow. It's definitely got some deeper drop-offs, and there's definitely some cover over here, so it's an ideal spot for a square bill. Okay folks, so I put up the crankbaits. Crankbaits aren't cutting it, so I'm not getting anything on the crankbaits at this point, but I found out something kind of interesting. Check out the cyclone jig. So the cyclone jig is actually, from what I could tell, a swim jig. I've got a real soft weed guard. I've got a more tapered head on it, so it's pretty much a swim jig and a green pumpkin. So look what I had. I had a Kitech. I just had a Kitech. I guess it's the Easy Shiner. A great matching combo. That's going to be an absolutely awesome subtle deal for some of these suspended fish, which I actually can see. So if they're not interested in the crankbaits, now I've got another moving bait that's much, much more subtle. So I'm going to be throwing this swim jig around a little bit, see if I can get something to pick it up, and then we're going to move into some of those baits that drag on the bottom. So stay tuned. Swim jig's just on a 7-foot, 2-inch, medium heavy, fast action. Just a real simple deal with 15-pound test fluorocarbon, and I'm just creeping it. I am truly letting it sink down maybe 5, 10 feet, pretty much where I see the fish, and I'm gonna just creep it right through them. Hopefully let's just get something to pick it up. Okay folks, I'm back over by the dam. It's a little more calm. There's very little wind here, and I just found a bunch of fish off this drop over here. So those crankbaits weren't getting down deep enough. The fish are deep. I can totally tell that there's a lot of fish down on the bottom. So I've got everything rigged up now. I got everything from the TRD shroom head. I've got one of my big TRDs to go on that shroom head in the mystery tackle box. I've got my swim jig. I got my Cyclone swim jig with my little Kitech swim bait on it. I'm gonna do this first. I'm gonna swim it right down the ledge and see if I can get this right in front of some of these fish. And then I got the Finesse jig to work with as well. So we got some options here to get on top of these fish. So let's see what we can do. I'll let this go straight down to the bottom and just drag it through the fish. I am absolutely just creeping this swim jig along the bottom. It is way down on the bottom, probably 15, 20 feet of water, and there's just fish all over the place. It's a tough time when you got 45, 46 degree water and crystal clear water. And again, we had 65, 67 degree weather the past 2 days. The max it's going to get up to is about 55, 57 a day, and the water temperature's holding stable. I haven't seen it creep up even barely a drop. So water temperatures are consistent. Fishing's going to be tough, but slow is the name of the game. So sinking it to the bottom and crawling it. What you folks need to remember is fishing this time of year, it may be a one fish day, but it's usually a big one. So this is the time of year when some of the guys get the biggest fish of their life. So you really got to get out here. If it's a 55 degree day and it's comfortable like this, even if the water temperatures are icy cold, there's still some great fishing to be had. You may not get the numbers, but if you understand the concept of how these fish work in these cold waters, they get that big bait in front of them or little bait in front of them. They don't want to move much. They don't want to get too much exertion out there to get to the bait. So if you creep something slow enough in front of their face, they're going to eat, and it's usually going to be that big one that needs to feed itself. So stay diligent, stay patient, and fish slow. Okay, so I started out power fishing with the crankbaits. I went a little more finesse with another power or moving bait with the swim jig and the Kitech swim bait trailer, but now it's time to go real finesse. There's the tungsten PB&J with the Charlie's Worm craw trailer on my 7'1" medium action fast taper spinning rod, 15-pound test braid with a 10-pound test leader. It's basically the same concept of what I'll be throwing a shaky head on, but it's a jig. So 3/8 ounce little tungsten football style jig. Going to imitate some of the crawfish out here on the edge of these rocks on this dam. So let's see if we can get something going finesse style. That sun has just broken out and is really warming things up quick, so hopefully that'll pick up the action a little bit and get a couple of these fish to bite before we're done. But I'm about to move on to that TRD with that shroom head that came in the mystery tackle box. So a couple more casts with this finesse jig, and then we're breaking out the finessiest option of the day. Okay folks, I broke it out. The most finessey option out of the mystery tackle box this month, the shroom head by Z-Man, and that's in my personal stash. I got a big green pumpkin TRD ready to roll. So that's the weedless version, thankfully, because we got a bunch of old leftover grass. I got all kinds of rocks, so hopefully that'll keep me from getting snagged up too much. I'm going to put a little crawfish scent on it, and away we go. Just another very similar setup to what I just had going on with the finesse jig. Just a 7-foot medium action St. Croix Premier rod. I got 15-pound test braid, and this time I've got 8-pound test fluorocarbon. Get a little more finessey with this TRD. So got some drops, got a little leftover grass, and I've got rocks. So let's pretend we're a good-looking crayfish to some of these cold bass. Unbelievably, the TRD Ned rig didn't even work. So here I am moving around, trying to cover some water. The sun's been beating down on this point where I've got some fallen timber and some rocks. So hopefully there's a little heat up going on. Back to the square bill. Let's see what I can do. Along with the square bill, I'm going to be throwing that finesse jig in some of this wood. I'm going to definitely be throwing the TRD around the edges of it. So just covering all my bases, seeing what I can do on a chilly 46-degree water. Again, it's a one fish type of day sometimes when it's like this, but hopefully it'll be that big one. The wind's changing directions. We've got a front coming in. It's not the kind of front we want. It's a colder front. So after a few warm days, the chill is on its way back. So that's going to put a hampering on the fishing. But we got to do what we got to do. I'll tell you, the sun dips very quickly this time of year. It's going down fast, and I don't have much to show for it. It's nothing to be surprised about in this. In these type of conditions with these water temperatures this time of year. We just have to hope for the best and stay at it and hope we get that at least one fish for the day. If I don't get a big fish of the day, it's always fun breaking open the mystery tackle box, that's for sure. I think what's going to happen today, though, is the donkey rig's not going to come out. I'm not going to rig that up. It'd just be a waste of time. You know, this lake doesn't have any shad. It doesn't have any of that kind of schooling action. Great time of year, though, to throw the donkey rig if, as the sun dips, you start seeing breaking fish. If you guys are out on the body water and you got yourself a mystery tackle box this month and it happened to have a donkey rig set up in it, get it set up and have that ready to roll when you see those breaking fish, because they just absolutely annihilate that double fluke type rig. It's absolutely awesome. I've thrown it tons of times, and now I've got another option to throw as soon as I get to the position where I can throw it. So one thing I'm not going to throw today, but we're going to stick with these finesse options. The finesse football jig and that Ned rig is hopefully going to be our saving grace, so stay tuned. After all, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and break open these smart bait, these soft jerk baits from Smart Bait. These color changing fluke style baits. And you know what? I'm putting it on an underspin. I've got fish pretty darn deep, so this is a pretty unique deal. These actually change color. Just a real classic super soft fluke style, and I've got a killer underspin right here. This just happens to be an underspin that I was throwing down at Lanier. I've got a little extra stinger hook on the blade, so we're gonna go ahead and set this up. The fish are deep. There's just no way a donkey rig's gonna work out here. There's nothing on the surface, and everything's anywhere from 20 to 30 feet down. So I'm gonna go ahead and rig up the underspin, see if I can drop something down to him kind of subtle with a little flash. And doing these underspins absolutely straight down the middle is crucial. So let's see if we can get this to come out exactly where I want it. There it is. All right, we got a pretty unique deal there, folks. There's an underspin all hooked up with the Smart Bait. Got a white head on it. That's about 3/8 of an ounce. I'm going to sink it down to those fish and just jig it right over their heads. Get a little bit of flash. I got this bright sun and super clear skies. I'm anxious to see what color this Smart Bait turns into when it's in the water. I had a kind of a red belly and a green pumpkin with a red flake on the top. Let me pull it out of the water, see if it changed colors yet on me. Not really. Still about that red belly and a green pumpkin back on it. So let's see what this can do for me. Well, I'm going to give myself an A for effort. That was one tough, brutal, late fall fishing day. Always great to get out when you haven't been out in a while. I'm happy I'm out here even with this aching back, but I'll tell you what, the conditions were brutal. Happy to break open a mystery tackle box and check out all the great stuff that came in it this month. If you want to check out one of your own, be sure to go to mysterytacklebox.com and treat yourself to your own subscription and use the code YTFV, short for YouTube Fishing Vids. I'll get you $10 off the first month of your new subscriptions. Folks, as always, appreciate you joining me. As always, appreciate you subscribing. Until we meet again, over and out.